Hello everyone, it's your favorite switching out in space here, and it's no secret I do not like James Cameron's Avatar. Plot twist, I know. However, there is something I've always found funny about the more I think about it. The more I think about it, I don't think really anyone is particularly evil in Avatar. Now I know this sounds like a plot twist or a shocker, but if you listen to my video here, I will explain why I believe that no side in Avatar is actually particularly evil. Let's get into it. Now, of course, the first response to the claim that no one in Avatar is evil is, what about the humans, those big, mean colonizers here to kill the Na'vi and burn the trees for funsies or whatever? Well, it's that they aren't there to just kill things and burn things because they can, or even just to make money. The humans are there out of, well, desperation. It's their only shot for survival. You see, it's touched on in the movie, but it seems like everyone forgot that the humans are suffering a massive energy crisis. One that is so bad that if they don't find a way to fix it and fast, their civilization can collapse. The power grid will fall apart. Millions and billions of people will die, quite possibly all of the Earth's ecosystem, and it's overall just one big, huge mess. That's the only reason humans are out in Pandora in the first place, is to get the unobtainium they need to fix this problem. Now, granted, that doesn't really sound like the action of a villain. Now, this doesn't necessarily excuse, in a sense, what they've done. The humans do pretty bad things in the course of the movie, and although I say a lot of it's more just down to very bad decision-making, however, if you really think about it, it's hard to call them the villains or pure evil, because they're doing it because they got people back home they care about. If they don't do what they're doing here, billions will die. The whole civilization will collapse, and these are humans. Their fellow men, women, and children will die. Everything that humanity has built for will be for naught. So, yeah, they have pretty good reason to be desperate. And even beyond that, the humans, even if they're just randomly attacking, might still have some justification just because they're doing it out of desperation. But it gets even more so when the humans originally try to trade with the Na'vi, try to find some trade agreement with medicine or technology or anything the Na'vi didn't have so they could get the rocks they needed. The rocks which, need I remind you, the Na'vi do not use in any capacity. They help the environment, they're just rocks, they don't do anything. And the Na'vi responded by ignoring or outright attacks. Now, granted, the trying to set up a trade deal and failing at it does not justify you attacking or killing someone or taking their stuff. But once again, it even shows that even when these humans are incredibly desperate, running on complete, borrowed time, they're still trying to be diplomatic. They didn't rush in, guns blazing, torch the whole area down. Now, granted, by the end, towards the middle act of the movie, they're, of course, trying to blow up that one tree to get the unobtainium. Now, and once again, that's not good. Taking someone's stuff by force, killing people, attacking a village is not good. I'm not suggesting that everything they do is good. Quite the opposite. They definitely have blood on their hands. But realistically, could you say you would do any different? Could you say that if you were the one, the human commander or whatever, and you know that back on Earth, if you do not get these rocks and soon, the civilization will collapse, everyone will die, mothers will watch their children starve to death, and all because you wouldn't do what had to be done? It's really hard to say. I can imagine that most people would willingly do that when the stakes are that high. And once again, the Na'vi aren't even that many. It's not even that the humans are trying to take over the planet or kill every Na'vi. They just need the rocks and can leave. And it's not even that humans are in a super unstable situation, although they've definitely run themselves into some problems. But we even hear at the beginning of the movie, they're resurrecting dead animals. It's showing that although humans got themselves into a bad place, they aren't above trying to fix it. But they can't do any fixing if they're all dead. Now, it's to bring back the dead species, to repair the ecosystem, to do all these things, they need that power grid, and they're going to need those unobtainium to do it. So those rocks are going to need to be given right away. Once again, it comes down to a bit of a moral question, though, that is it worth to attack several innocent villages, potentially killing them all, to save your entire species? Now, we can argue whether that's a good or moral action to some degree, but it's honestly hard to really say they're evil for doing it. They're running on desperation, and once again, could you really say you'd be any different? Can you really say that someone trying to save 14 billion lives, over trying to do everything like that, is really, truly evil? No. They may not be able to say you're the bad guy, or the evil, or the worst moral situation here, But you're not necessarily, but it's not, you can't say pure evil. You're not like Skeletor evil laughing about how you're going to take over Eternia. You're doing this out of desperation to save everyone and everything you care about. And it's really hard to say who wouldn't do that. Now, some people, after hearing this, or potentially even before this, would say, well, then the Na'vi must be evil. After all, they're keeping the unobtainium from the humans for no particular reason other than they can, and they don't want to give it up. Now, granted, it comes down to a certain degree of how much are the Na'vi actually aware of the human situation. From my understanding, there's some contradicting information about how much they actually know why humans are doing what they're doing. And potentially you could also chalk some of that up to a misunderstanding. If they did know how desperate humans were, they might be willing to make exceptions or do something to work out the situation. But even if they do technically know what's going on, like someone told them, they might not be able to register that. It's quite impressive how even humans, when told some big catastrophic thing, can often ignore it or downplay it based on circumstances. And I can't imagine the Na'vi would be any different. Also, because if they don't naturally trust the humans, how do they not know this is all just one lie they came up with? Trying to just give them a sob story so they'll give them what they want. I'm not entirely sure why the Na'vi care super much about the rocks, because once again, they don't generally care. Although, from my understanding, it's more that they just don't like someone coming on their stuff and taking it and destroying force to get it. Which, once again, is sympathetic. I would not want someone randomly coming into my land and start digging up my dirt just because they said something. It would be rude, to say the least. Also, there's a huge question where the Na'vi owe humanity anything. Do they owe to have their plant damaged? To have their livelihoods disrupted for even a while for people they don't know? And they made it clear during the trade deals, or the attempts at it, that they don't want to. They don't want contact, they don't want to talk, they want to live their own life and mind their own business on their planet that has always been theirs. And then these humans show up saying something, and then they start trying to take your everything. It's hard to say the Na'vi are really evil in this situation. It's a completely understandable situation. And once again, you also have to ask the question, do the Na'vi owe humanity anything? This is on some level humanity's fault, after all. They did kind of sort of get themselves into this situation. How much you can truly blame them for it is a different matter, but you do have to, within the setting of Avatar, humanity kind of brought this on themselves. So, once again, do the Na'vi owe themselves to help fix a species that messed itself up? Do they owe themselves to have to deal with the problems of someone else? And that's a different moral question, but once again, given all the situations, the outright aggression, all these different things, and the fact that humans are still technically invaders to the planet, it's hard to call the Na'vi evil. They're just defending their homes and defending their rights. It's hard to say they're evil, even if they somewhat understand what's going on, which from my understanding is somewhat questionable if they do understand what's going on. So, all of that put together, we have the humans who aren't evil, and the Na'vi who aren't evil. So, looking at the situation, no one's particularly evil in Avatar. Sure, maybe there's maybe some more jerk actors in both sides, but at the end of the day, they're both realistically doing what anyone would do. If the roles were reversed, they'd probably do something similar. And realistically, this is actually very interesting, if written like this, a bit more of a morally gray situation. How this could be set up to show interesting conflicts. Ironically enough, it kind of feels to me like an episode of Star Trek, that then, like, the Star Trek Enterprise people find some compromise between the groups or something like that. But sadly, we don't have this here. There is the conflict, there is the battle, and these two sides locked into fate because neither side has a choice. The humans can't back down, the species will die, and the Na'vi can't back down, they'll lose their planet and everything they care about, or at least could. So, honestly, neither side is particularly evil. They're just doing what they have to do given the circumstances they're on. However, I a bit lied to you guys for a second. For there is someone in Avatar who, beyond a shadow of a doubt, is evil. Given just about any moral framework you could give this guy, it would not matter, for he would be evil. He would be a monster by any account that both sides should probably have teamed up to kill on the spot. That man being Jake Sullivan, or if I can't remember his name right, the main character from the first Avatar movie. I'm sorry if I got his name wrong because I forget names easily. But the point is, if we look at his actions in the first movie objectively, he is the villain. He is the monster. He is beyond potentially redemption. So why do I come to this conclusion? Well, simply put, we have to look at who he is. He's a military man from Earth, a human, obviously. He served his country with distinction and honor and was injured in the line of duty. He, after his twin brother died, who was going to go on this project, was sent to Pandora to be one of the Avatar Project, as we all know who's in the movie, and therefore, doing this to be one of humanity's last bastions of hope to help deal with the fact that, they're all going to die. During this event, however, he of course betrays humanity and ends up working to undermine their entire operation, stopping humanity's advances on Pandora. Now, why does any of this make him evil? Well, simply put, he betrayed his entire species for no decent reason. On the basic level, he is a human who betrayed humanity. All of it. 14 billion people. And we're going to circle back to that, but the point is he did betray his people, but he also betrayed his nation, and more so, he's a soldier. He was sent on this mission specifically to do it. It wasn't that he just happened to be there and decided he was going to make an honorable option. No, he chose to do something and then chose to betray them. So already it was not pretty sketchy behavior, and his reasoning isn't solid. On the best you could, the few reasons I think you could really suss out if you look at his story objectively is, one, he's happy he doesn't have to be in a wheelchair anymore, and two, he wants to live in a peaceful, quote-unquote, society and hang out in the woods, or three, he wants to get with that alien lady. These three seem to be the major reasons in the most part that I can argue with, and they're all kind of selfish. He's all doing this he's doing this massive betrayal of humanity just because he wants things personally. He is, by definition, selfish. Now, there is technically a hypothetical fourth reason, is he doesn't want to see the Na'vi die, so he fights to save them. This has some ground on the first, he doesn't want to kill the Na'vi because he doesn't want to see people die. However, this fails on two accounts. One, it wasn't that he just went neutral or went rogue and then proceeded to stay out of the conflict. He actively chose to switch sides and kill many humans, either directly or knowingly indirectly, in the conflict. So if his argument was, I don't want to kill people, he kind of failed at that miserably, because he still ended up killing people. But it wasn't just people that had no connection to him, it was people that he was specifically took oaths and honors to protect and help that he betrayed. But even more so is because he stopped, or at least severely hindered, the unobtainium operations on Earth, which those operations were deeply critical to, humanity's power system. And he knew all of this. People don't really understand what he did in that moment by betraying humanity and actively turning against them. He knowingly doomed 14 billion people to death. He knew it. That the Pandorans can get some kind of flack because even they might not know it all, and B, they might not know if it's true, or they just not have a good idea of context. But he knows. He lived on the dirt. He was a normal guy. He saw what Earth was. He knew what the situation was. He has no excuse of ignorance. He has no excuse of separation from the problem. He betrayed his own species and doomed 14 billion people to death knowingly. He knew the consequences of his actions and still chose to do it. So he did a horrible action. He did a genocide worse than anything in human history, or at least allowed one to occur on scales that even most supervillains would not do. And all for selfish reasons. He wanted to live a life he wanted to live, and so and the thing is, once again, it's not like he's a neutral actor. He was specifically chose he would help defend humanity and save humanity from this crisis, and then stabbed them all in the back and doomed them all. Doomed every human to a slow, painful death. Now, I have not seen the second movie, and I know there are humans there, so I don't know if they retcon somewhat of the humans found some way to get out of it, or the crisis hasn't happened yet, or they're just some humans left over. I don't know. But even if, let's just say, humanity somehow made a miraculous recovery after the events of the first movie, so those 14 billion people did not die and civilization didn't collapse, he had no way of knowing that. He had no way of suspecting or knowing that a massive death toll wasn't coming. So even, it's for example, if I say there's a box here, and the button next to the box, and the button says if you press this button, the kins inside will explode, it doesn't matter if in reality the button doesn't actually do something. If you choose to press the button, you either wanted those cats to die or were perfectly willing to let those kittens die. This is the position he's in. He knew what would happen if he got in the way of this operation. He knew the death. He knew the destruction he would cause. He would know the betrayal he would be doing, and he did it all. I would make a very strong case that he is actually one of the most evil characters in all of fiction for this reason. The amount of death he would be willingly accept is crazy. The betrayals of every value he could possibly imagine. How he's a massive hypocrite no matter how you look at it. Especially because he calls the humans selfish, but any reason he has to do what he did is selfish reasoning. It doesn't matter how you slice it, he is the villain. He is the true monster of the story. And if anyone could have if there was any justice in the world of Avatar, he would have been shot by both sides for being a monster that neither of them would have liked. But anyway, that's just my opinion. I know Avatar is the popular movie and people are going to have strong feelings on it, but I would really like to hear your thoughts down below. Please comment if you like it or not. Like, comment, subscribe, or dislike. Tell me why I'm wrong. You know the drill, and I will see you all next time. Yeah. Hey, why don't you hit that sub button? You're going to become a subscribble. Get to see my content quicker. Wouldn't that be nice? I bet so.